ladies, and welcome to lesson 3 of our series in this virtual Sunday school. I want to apologize first of all for taking so long to upload the next lesson, lesson 3. But it's been really crazy over here, and so I do apologize about that. But we will be back on schedule, so you will find lessons 3, 4, and 5 posted this weekend. All right, and then that it's the end of our first unit, and then we're gonna go into unit 2, which we will continue weekly every week. Okay, so let's do lesson 3. Okay, so for lesson 3, we're titling it, I guess, so kind, right? And so we're also we're trying to learn or to see, recognizing kind deeds, right? So we've been talking about being kind and where all this comes from, right? And we've learned that it comes from Jesus, it comes from God. And so today we're going to see, like, okay, we know where kindness comes from, right? It comes from God, it comes from Jesus. Um, we know that we're supposed to be kind, right? We learned that too. We talked in lesson 2, right? That we had to be kind to others. We have to be nice to others, especially during these times right now. This is a perfect time to be nice to others, right? But the Bible also wants us, right, to know God also left in the Bible for us to recognize kind deed. Okay, and that's not just saying like, oh yeah, look, that person did something nice, let's clap for that person, yay. No. So we're gonna see how Jesus wants us to respond or to recognize kind deeds. Okay, before we go into that, we're going to be in the Bible. We're going to be in the story that we're going to talk about today. It's in two different places, okay? But before that, let's talk a little bit about this, okay? As ladies, right? As girls, we love to smell good, right? And it's kind of expected, right? For us to smell good. And so this is the bottle of my favorite perfume, right? And so I don't know if you know about perfumes, but perfumes, you have two different kind of perfumes. You have like some that are they're called eau de perfume or eau de toilette or something like that. It's weird. Anyway, the point is there's two types for every type of perfume, right? One is based on water and the other one is based on oil, right? So obviously the one that's based in oil is going to last longer, so it's more expensive as well, right? So that's kind of important to know about in our story because we will be talking about a spikenard, which is a perfume pretty much. It's an oil with a lot of fragrance, right? So it's essentially we're talking about a perfume, right? But see, in the Bible, the story that we're going to be talking about today, the spikenard refers to an oil that was very rare. Okay, so then even though it was already in oil and it was already smelling good, right? So it's already expensive, it's an oil that you don't find everywhere. You don't find it in just, walking down the store or in the market and you find it everywhere. It was a very special oil in India, right? So it was even more expensive. This perfume that we're going to be talking about was even more expensive than just any regular perfume back in the days. Okay. So let's talk about perfumes. Like, why do we like perfumes, right? One, we love to smell good, right? Of course, we love to smell good, right? But what else? Why else would we like, or is a specific perfume? Like, for example, me, I love this perfume. And you wanna know why I love this perfume? And if you smell it, um, my mom doesn't like it. She says it smells like viejita. She says, she's like, why do you like that one? It smells like viejita. I don't know. To me, I love how it smells. It's very smooth. It's very I don't know, it just smells good. I don't know. But every time I smell it, it reminds me of something. It reminds me of of a time. Okay, so when my parents decided to move here, right? We all moved and we came into the U.S. I was very young. We didn't have a lot of money, back then. We were trying to, get our life started, and so we went to where everybody goes. I mean, we went to the flea market, and so we were there. My mom, it was one of those times that we were at the flea market, and I think she was selling something. I don't know. I think she was selling tacos or whatever. I don't know. The point is that we went. I was little, right, and we come across this lady selling perfumes. Right, she was selling perfumes and lotions and all this stuff, and I remember going straight into that table. right? And I wanted it all. I wanted them all. And then I found this little bottle of lotion, right? And when I opened it, it smelled so good. And I don't know if it was because I was very extra sweaty that day, being outside all day, and I smelled this and it just smelled really, really good. I don't know, but I just, when I smelled it, to me, it smelled so good. And my mom ended up buying me that lotion, and I love that lotion so much that I wanted that perfume. I was like, imagine if this is what the lotion smells like. Imagine what the perfume would smell like. So I started looking around at the stores and everything, and I found that it was super expensive. Like that was like a really expensive perfume. I was like, I'm never gonna ask my parents for that. We don't have money for that very expensive perfume. So that little lotion bottle, it was like this big. Okay. I made it last. Like every time I would put some on, I would put like a little tiny little dot on my finger and spread that and put it everywhere to make me smell good, right? Because it was very expensive. And so when my mom was like, "Can I have some lotion?" And my mom loves a lot of lotion, like all in her arms, everything, right? And I would give her like so very little of that lotion because I didn't want it to go to waste, right? Later on, we grew up, right? And my brother actually got me the perfume later on, right? But I think that I like that perfume because it reminds me of that time of when I was little and I was with my mom, and every time that I put that one on, we always end up talking about the stories, right? About how I would be very stingy and not give a lot of lotion and just be little bitty one because I wanted that lotion to last forever, right? Well, today we're going to talk about somebody that was quite the opposite for me, actually. So if we go into our Bibles and we look in Mark 14, we're going to find, okay, 14:3, it says, "And being in Bethany, in the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at meat, there came a woman having an alabaster box of ointment of a spikenard, very precious, and she brake the box and poured it on his head." So, what's going on here? Let's do a little background. Let's do a little something, right? We have Jesus, right? Obviously, we're talking about Jesus. We have Jesus, and he's going into Bethany, okay? That's just a city. And in this city lives Simon. Now, who is Simon? Simon, right, comes out and invites Jesus to come and eat with them, okay? Eat at his house. Now, again, who's Simon? Simon is he used to be a leper. You know, it said right there, Simon the leopard, right? He used to have leprosy. Okay, so remember, leprosy was this disease that was like it had little boils, like well, maybe not little, but they were like big little, uh, big like not pimples, but big just warts everywhere, right? And so they would be all over your body and it was contagious. So those people would be taken out of the city so that they won't, contaminate everybody else, right? So it's kind of like they were in quarantine, kind of like with COVID, right? But here in COVID, you can quarantine in your room or in your house or something like that. Well, back then, in order to quarantine themselves, they had to take them outside of the city. So then they couldn't see their house anymore. They couldn't see their families anymore. They didn't have anything to eat. They were outside. They couldn't work. They couldn't do anything. Right? So those people were pretty much left to die outside of the city so that they don't contaminate everybody else. Well, Jesus saved Simon, right? In one of his miracles, Jesus saves Simon from this leprosy, and Simon gets healed. And now he's able to go back home and he's able to be with his family. So now, when Jesus is coming through the city, Simon says, "This is my opportunity to be thankful. I'm going to go and ask Jesus to come and eat with us," right? So here comes Jesus, and he accepts, he goes to the dinner, right? And of course, there we also have Jesus's best friends, right? Here on earth, which is Lazarus, Mary, and Martha, right? And so remember, Lazarus, he's like the only second person that was resurrected from the dead, right? So Jesus came and resurrected Lazarus, right? Woke him up from his death and was able to live again. So here are these people, they're all in this house. They're all sitting down to eat. And remember, Jesus always traveled with his disciples. So all of his disciples are there. We have Lazarus, Martha, and Mary. We have Simon. We have everybody there. Okay. And usually what happens is when somebody comes into the house, the servants come, right? And because back then it was all dusty, right? And so as an order of respect, they're going to start eating food, they would the servants will wash the feet of the person, right? Of the person that is in high respect, right? And the honor person, I guess, or the honored guest. Okay, so those were the traditions back then. Okay, but the Bible here tells us that they're sitting down already at the table. They're about to eat, and here comes Mary with this little box. Okay, here comes Mary with a box, and she's carrying this box, and on that box, it's a perfume. It's a bottle of spikenard. Remember, spikenard? It's a very, very expensive perfume, right? And the Bible says not only is it spikenard, but it's a precious spikenard, right? It's a very precious perfume. So that tells us it's very expensive. And here comes Mary, opens the bottle. No, this one's a spray, but opens the bottle and starts pouring it on Jesus's head. Okay, let's keep going and reading on here. Okay, so we're still 14:3. It says, and being in Bethany in the house of Simon, the precious, okay, the a box of ointment of spikenard, very precious. And she broke it out of the box and poured it into his head. Now let's go into John 12. Okay, and in John 12:3, we find here. Well, let's start reading from the 12. It says, there they made him a supper, and Martha served, but Lazarus was one of them that sat at the table with him. Then took Mary a pound of ointment of spikenard, very costly. So here's a whole another person telling us a story, and he's saying that it's very costly. So once again, it's very expensive. And anointed the feet of Jesus, and wiped his feet with her hair, and the house was filled with the odor of the ointment. So wait a minute. Mark tells us that Mary gets the oil and pours it on Jesus' head. But then John tells us that she didn't pour all of it. She took the rest of the perfume, poured it on his feet, and used her hair to wash his feet. Now, I don't know, maybe the servants didn't wash their Jesus' feet before they went to eat or whatever, but remember, they're about to eat. Tradition is that the honored guest gets his feet washed. So here's Martha and decides to take this opportunity, okay, and to do this for Jesus. So not only is she doing a servant's job by washing his feet, she's using a very precious, very costly ointment, oil, perfume. So now, when somebody does something nice for someone, right, and everybody and other people are there, what do? Oh, that's so sweet. But that's not what happened here. Let's go back to Mark 14:5. And I'm sorry, 4. It says, and there were some that had indignation. Indignation, they were like, indignation with themselves and said, why was this waste of the ointment made? For it might have been sold for more than 300 pence and have been given to the poor. And they murmured against her. So again, against Mary. Okay, now let's see what John says about this. Maybe John saw some people that were happy. I don't know. Let's see. 12:4. Then said one of the disciples, Judas. Remember Judas? Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, which would betray him. So remember, this is that Judas, okay, the one that betrays Jesus. He says, why was not this ointment sold for 300 pence and given to the poor? So both people that are telling this story are telling us that people were mad. They were they were like, oh my God, why did they do that? Why did she waste all this ointment? We could have sold it. We could have given it to the poor. But now let's take a look at what John tells us in verse 6. This he said, again, talking about Judas, right? Judas just said, why didn't we sell it for 300 pence and give it to the poor? Well, then John says, this he said, Judas, not that he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief and had the bag and bear what was put therein. Okay, so let's talk about Judas. So Judas, okay, he's a disciple, but before he was a disciple, or maybe even after he was a disciple too, John is telling us he's a thief, right? So Judas is not a very nice person, right? Not only because he then betrays Jesus later on, but he just does that. He loves money, and so Judas is one of the people that are mad and are starting the rumor against Mary for wasting, right? For wasting this perfume. But John tells us Judas was probably not mad. He was not mad actually because, they could have given it to the poor. He couldn't care less for the poor. He didn't care about the poor. He just wanted the money because he was the treasurer of the disciples. He kept the bag of all the money, right? So everything that they made, that they were donated or whatever, they would keep the money there. And Judas would then say, "Okay, this is for the disciples and this is for me. This is all they gave to Jesus. Let me see. Let me take a little bit for the disciples and the rest for me." So he's a thief, right? And so he got mad at Mary for wasting the perfume, okay? Because he could have kept some of that money. Now let's see what Jesus did. How did he react to this? Jesus then answers in verse 6, Mark 14:6 says, "And Jesus said, Let her alone. Let her be. Leave her alone. Okay, why trouble ye her? She had wrought a good work on me, for ye have the poor with you always, and whensoever ye will, ye may do them good. But me ye have not always." So Jesus is here telling them, why are you getting upset with her? Why are you getting mad at her? She did something good for me. You have the poor with you all the time. There is poor people all around you, and they're going to be here with you. You're not always going to have me. So Jesus is defending Mary here. Now let's see what John says. John says in John 12:7, "Then said Jesus, Let her alone." Okay, same thing. "Against the day of my burying had she kept this. For the poor always ye have with you, but me ye have not always." So once again, he says John heard the exact same thing that Mark did. Right? Jesus defended Mary and said, "You're not always going to have me." Now, what was he talking about? The crucifixion, of course, right? Jesus was getting ready to be crucified. Jesus, remember, he had just come into Jerusalem. They had this big entry with the donkey. Remember our first lesson, right? Now he's here. He knows what's coming. He knows that his crucifixion is near. And he says, "Hey, Mary, save this for my death. She is doing what it's supposed to be done. You're always going to have the poor, but not me." And then Jesus did something. Not only did he defend her, but then Jesus said something else. "Verily I say unto you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached throughout the whole world, this also that she had done shall be spoken for a memorial of her." What did Jesus do here? Jesus recognized what Mary did. Jesus recognized that Mary had done a good deed. And in order to thank her, in order to, like a thank you gift, he made a promise to her. He made a promise that this story, Mary's story, was going to be told everywhere. And that people were going to know what she did. Now, do you think Mary did that for, to get famous or to have people even now, thousands and thousands of years from that happened, to be talking about it? Do you think that's why she did it? No. She did it just because she wanted to be nice to Jesus. She did it because she wanted to be kind to Jesus. That's why she did it. But Jesus recognized that. Remember? We're trying to recognize. And Jesus made a promise and said, people are going to talk about this all over the world. Everyone's going to know of the good that you did right now. Now, I can't go to Jesus and pour this on him anymore, right? He's not here with me. So how can I show respect to him? Mary did this, poured it in his head washed his feet with it because she wanted to show respect. She wanted to show how she honored him. How can I do that? I can't take my perfume. This is my most precious perfume. It might not be as expensive as a Spaniard back then, but this is my favorite perfume. I can't take this and just pour it into Jesus' head and wash his feet. I can't do that. So what can I do to Jesus in order to show my respect? I can obey him. I can do what he wants me to do. I can follow his commandments. I can follow his example. That's what I can do in order to help him, in order to honor him, in order to show my respect. That's what you can do too. You can't go and buy some expensive perfume. You can't take your most precious lotion and perfume and go and pour it on him, but you definitely can obey him. Now, Mary did that because she knew who Jesus was. She knew that Jesus was the Son of God. She knew what Jesus was going to come up against, right? She poured this, she anointed. See, back then, whenever you would pour oil in somebody's head, a precious oil in somebody's head, it meant that that person was destined for something great, okay? You were making a statement. Mary did that because she knew who he was. Do you know who he is? Do you have Jesus in your heart? Have you accepted Jesus in your heart? Do you know that he's the Son of God and he can save you from your sins? Because if you do, then your next step would be obedience, just like Mary. Mary knew who Jesus was and she did this to honor him. So the next thing you need to do, if you already asked Jesus to come into your heart, is to honor him and follow his commandments and follow everything that his example. But if you have not, then I can't ask you to show honor to God. I can't tell you, you need to honor God if you have never asked Jesus to come into your heart because you don't know who he is. Because trust me, if you know who he is, all you want to do is thank him for the greatness that he did. If you truly knew Jesus in your heart, if you truly know him, obeying him won't be that hard. It will be easy because you know who he is and you want to honor him. So I want to ask you again, do you have Jesus in your heart? If you don't, why don't you close your eyes and pray this prayer with me? Okay? Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for this lesson that you've given us, Lord, about being kind to others, Lord, and recognizing that kindness, Lord. And today I want to recognize your kindness, Lord. I want to recognize that you died for me, for my sins, to save me and so that I can go to heaven. Lord, I want to ask you to please come into my heart. Make me a new person, Lord. Clean it and save me, Lord, so that whenever I die, I can go with you, Lord. Lord, I ask you to please bless every single one of the persons that are watching this, Lord. Bless the students that are seeing this, Lord. And if there is somebody right now that just did that plea, Lord, that just asked you to come into their heart, Lord, help them, Lord, to do the next step and to be obedient to you, Lord. Give them the strength that they need, Lord, in order to be like Mary and show honor and respect to you, Lord. Maybe not through pouring oils, Lord, and wasting our perfumes, Lord, like the disciples said, but by obeying you, Lord, and by listening to you and following in your example, Lord. I ask you to please bless every single person watching this, Lord, and help us all, Lord, myself included, help us all to be obedient to you, Lord, and to recognize those that have done something kind to us, Lord. In Jesus Christ I pray. Amen. All right, ladies, if you accepted Jesus in your heart today and you did that prayer, I want you to please send me a message, put it down in the comments, or send me a message personally and tell me, Hermana Christy, I accepted Jesus in my heart today. If you already did and you want some extra prayer, ladies, make sure you can send me a message. Say, Hermana, I'm having a really tough week. I really need some extra prayer. You can always send me a message, send me an email, send me a text, whatever you need, ladies. If you have my number, you can always call me as well. Okay. Also, at the beyond the lesson today, at the bottom, you will find some links and stuff for some thank you cards. Okay, so then you can print out some thank you cards, and that way you can recognize kindness. All right, you can recognize a kind deed that somebody did to you. Maybe it was your mom, maybe it was your dad, or somebody that did something nice to you. Okay, and you can print out one of those cards and color it and give it to them. All right. And if you do that, please take a picture and send it to me so I can post it later on. Okay. All right. Have fun doing those thank you cards. Answer those questions and send me your answers. Bye, ladies.